My name is Hiromi Kelty, and I work with the City of Palo Alto Utilities. We're so excited that there are so many people here today. We're excited about the tremendous speakers and our partners and the vendors that have made this event possible. So I'd like to give a brief introduction to Sean Armstrong. We are very, very fortunate to have him here today. For those of you that heard Bill from Bruce from RMI give his presentation, Sean, as Bruce said, Sean is the one that knows the details. And you know, I did a little bit of research on him. I've heard him speak many times, and he is amazing and inspiring. But as a college student, he had a life-changing experience living in a demonstration zero net energy student house. And he has kept pushing the envelope ever since. Today, he is one of the country's foremost electrification experts and leading ZNE building designers. He's also co-founder of Redwood Energy, which is a ZNE design firm that focuses on low-income subsidized housing and has led the design of more than 5,000 solar-powered residences, of which 2,300 are all electric and 100% solar power. I mean, that's kind of amazing. He successfully disconnected the gas line to his house in 2017. And like I said, he is a much sought after speaker, and we're so fortunate to have him here today. Sean, take it away. And he's really funny.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for coming in. So I'm going to do the Electrification 101 in pursuit of a cleaner, quieter, less expensive, safer lifestyle. So how do I bump my slides forward with the little arrow thing here?
Yeah, we have a clicker.
No, that works.
Okay.
The clicker's in the other room.
Yeah, I'll have someone bring it to you.
No worries. Okay, so introductions. That's the demonstration house I lived in. It was founded in 19...
Can you use the microphone, please?
I need to...
Can you hold it closer?
Does that... There we go. So I lived in that demonstration house. I actually came across the country. I'm from Wisconsin. I was in a college in Ohio. I was inspired by the catalog. There's a tiny little picture of this house at Humboldt State University's campus. And I came on exchange sight unseen to HSU, never left, just because of that house. And it did change my life. I got to have my own composting toilet, which I grew up on, but it was another one, and solar power and the rest. So I was a high school science teacher for a few years. The Schwarzenegger era was very difficult to get jobs. He had picked a fight with all the school teachers, and he was firing everyone every single year for 2 years in a row, every new teacher, and it was a rough spot. So I became an affordable housing project manager. And this is a nice example of one of my projects. It's 26 homes in Fort Bragg. They're all electric, 100% solar powered. No one has utility bills. Everyone's like negative $180 a year. And then that cool project down there is an example. That won the United Nations World Habitat Award. It's the first time in a decade that the United States had won the award from the United Nations because, you know, the United States. So this is the kind of award that you get when you design housing for people who survived civil wars or terrible hurricanes and everyone's homes are destroyed. They gave the award to this development because this is the first time that farm worker housing had been built in Yolo County, where everyone gets their almonds from. Everyone, every farm worker was living in a shack or a trailer or something horrible. So we were able to make this project all electric, which saved construction costs, 100 grand. And then we were able to put in a solar array, which brought in more money because solar electricity is cheaper. As long as you're getting a loan, you're paying off over time, essentially it's cheaper than getting grid electricity by about half, 2/3. So the financial benefits that came from that all told were like $1.2 million. And that's how we got the project funded, period. If it hadn't been an all-electric solar powered project, it wouldn't exist. And I was like, oh, yeah, you can use this actually to do the right thing and make a financial case. So, oh no. That's the big screen button. Hey, okay, I want to use this as an analogy. So, dead horse on the street. Interesting thing, typhoid fever is why we have cystic fibrosis genes. If you have a cystic fibrosis, just one copy of it, you have 80% less chance of dying from typhoid fever. Horses, dead horses on the street, used to be a major source of typhoid fever. In New York City, there were 400,000 horses. 15,000 of them were dead and left on the street every year until the advent of cars. The poop would build up to knee high, and there were just special people at intersections that would help you get across the street. Every 2 acres out there, the countryside, 1 2-acre parcel per horse. Massive land use implications by this transportation system. Until cars, humans couldn't go faster than a horse. So this was as fast as you could go, but like, can't beat a dead horse kind of thing. People used to beat horses to death. And really interestingly, ASPCA is founded in no small part to stop horse deaths in New York City. And one of the first successes they had was to, I don't have to do this. One of their first successes was to require people to put horses in at night. In the wintertime, it gets so cold, and these horses would die. Thousands a year would die. Only 3 years is the average lifespan of a horse. They live for 30 years. So in that world, dispensing with the horse, the expense, the danger, the hassle, the problems. I don't know if you've ever ridden a horse when it was out of control. That's happened to me twice. I had a horse-drawn business for a summer, and I nearly killed a couple people during 4th of July fireworks. Oh man, I had to hold on to the horse for dear life, not joking, literally just for dear life. That was a huge crowd. It would have killed people. So getting rid of a horse, save the expense, the care, the anxiety of keeping it. To run a motor carriage costs ½ cent a mile. This is the metaphor for this moment. You're about to get rid of the horse. You're about to get rid of the fossil fuel combustion engine and transfer your lifestyle into the next version, which is less expensive, less dangerous, less difficult. That adoption curve, historically, this is cars. Sorry, here's electricity, straight up. Basically, every time we have a cool thing, this one was, doesn't have a name on it. Oh, that's cars. It is cars. Good. Clothes dryers, air conditioners, microwaves, mobile phones. There's a little period of time in which the early adopters are like, I love this. And everyone's like, that's crazy. And then everyone else goes, bam, right after it. It takes 13 to 15 years to completely change, transform everyone's lives. That's what I'm hoping happens. We need it to go about that fast, if not faster. The first people at the gate, this is Berkeley. Thank you, Berkeley. So they banned gas in all construction of all types starting in 2020. The legal strategy that they adopted, about this time last year, I got deeply impatient with the fact that the state wasn't going to ban gas like it kind of promised in 2020. I was like, oh, something has to happen, something has to change here. So I hired this big legal firm, Schut, Mahaley, and Weinberger, one of the 2 biggest firms, and I hired them just like, how can we ban gas? If we can't get the state legislature to do it, we can't get the Energy Commission to do it, what's next? And it turns out what's next is to ban gas piping in the walls. Every city has the police power to protect public safety. All of us have a city or a county that we live in that can ban gas piping in walls. And the thing you can do in any part of the country is to say, there's a topographic, meaning hills in San Francisco is why you can have a business that's not ADA compliant. They changed the building code. Topography prevents it from being ADA compliant. Topography, climate, or geology. The 3 things you're allowed to change the building code for. And they said geology, I mean, look at this. We've got earthquakes, we pop pipes in the walls, we're going to burn our city down. So they banned gas based upon climate, saying climate change fires are a real thing. We're struggling in Berkeley. With those 2, the earthquakes and the fires, they were able to ban gas. And it's not an energy code. It's a building code. They're not alone. So Santa Monica, Hayward, Windsor, San Jose, Menlo Park, San Luis Obispo, Arcata, even Seattle's moving on it. And there's a bunch of places like Cambridge, Massachusetts, the home of MIT and Harvard. They're working on a gas ban right now. There's actually a few different, if we have a sister state, it's Massachusetts. That's a state that's really pulling out all the stops in little small towns. Interestingly, one of the things they're doing that we're not doing is they're stopping gas pipelines. They're saying, like right now you can't get new gas service in north of Queens, like in White Plains and north of Queens and the Bronx, Long Island chunks of it, because they have not allowed a new gas line to go underneath the Hudson River onto Long Island. And as a consequence, tens of thousands of people are going all electric. It has the impact of the building code change to stop the gas pipeline that would allow expansion of gas services. So it's delightful. So here we go. Who's alive and here when there we go, I just want to see hands. Yeah. So hold on to that historical memory. We never know when next earthquake happens. We do know that when it happens, it's going to be some craziness. Because that's what it looks like when a gas line breaks in the Marina district. That high liquefaction soils that they filled in on, all those gas pipelines in that high liquefaction area go pop, pop, bang, bang. Earthquake comes, we've got leaks everywhere. That was a terrifying situation for the members of that community because this is the tertiary fire suppression system they're using. The first one broke. The secondary system, broken. It's the tertiary one that they'd only put in a few years earlier for the next layer of protection that they're able to pull the hoses out. And it's just people. That's not firefighters, it's just you and me running out the door to stop this gigantic gas fire that's going to take down the Marina District unless we stop it. Don't forget, all of us are usually first responders for gas fires. When there's a gas explosion, it's frequently neighbors who get killed who are showing up at the house because someone, I've got a gas leak, I'm trying to get out. Kaboom, the whole house is in splinters and there's some people with no eardrums left if they're still alive. All over the country we have gas explosions that take out firefighters, and first responders, and neighbors. So that policy language we've been living through, the 1994 earthquake, half of all the fires were from the 109 fires, half of them were gas fires. Basically after every earthquake, half the fires are gas fires. It doubles the fire emergency response needs. People die as a consequence of putting out gas fires over there and not getting to your home fire over here. And then we had 2010, a rupture, an accident. We lost 38 homes, 8 people were dead. And then, of course, this catastrophe, people are bleeding out their noses and vomiting from all the heavy metals that are in the methane gas that they're breathing. It's intense. You're like, yeah, methane is not as dangerous as nitrogen dioxide, but if you get a lot of it in you, it's just as dangerous as anything. It's a true poison. Now, as Bruce was saying previously, there's leaks. This is what it looks like. 90% of California's gas comes from the rest of the country. So all of these oil fields, gas fields, these are our gas fields. We literally get gas from Pennsylvania, physically get gas from Pennsylvania here. And these gas fields have leakage rates between 2 and 17%, 6 and 12%, 2 and 7, 3 and 17, 15, 3%, 9%, 15%. Like, these are massive amounts of leaks. We're not talking 1%, we're talking 5 to 15% leaks. And if you heard Bruce saying that it has a disproportionate impact on climate change, visually I'm going to show you what we used to think. In 2014, the conversation was that this was the problem of methane. Then we said, wait a minute, methane doesn't disappear over 100 years. It takes 10 years for it to do all of its damage. Right now, we have like a magnifying lens on us from the last 10 years of methane leakage. It is a disproportionate impact. This is the actual climate change impact that we have because it only lasts a short period of time. If you look at over what we're going to do in the next 20 years, this is what we thought it was. But when we go up in airplanes and we test what the actual atmosphere has, as opposed to trying to beam count it from the ground up, this is what we have. Almost half of our climate change we're experiencing today is the methane leaks of the last 10 years. Just the leaks, not the combustion. We used to think combustion was the big problem. If we have a really big natural gas leak problem, we could stop today. Like once we stop, 10 years later, it's gone. That much of our problem could be gone if we just stopped. Bruce spoke about this. He had that study up there, the meta-analysis. This is all about kids being injured. You didn't mention the formaldehyde. The largest source of formaldehyde in your house is your gas stove. Formaldehyde is a heavy-duty carcinogen. It's why you float dead animals in it for 200 years and nothing really happens. It's deadly. Nothing can live in formaldehyde. And it is the #1 source is the combustion off your gas stove. If you want to know what formaldehyde does to people, it's leukemia. That's one of the main causes of leukemia is formaldehyde exposure. It can happen to you when you're in the womb. And so you are born essentially with precancerous cells for leukemia. It can happen from heavy-duty exposure in your childhood. When I'm cooking, and I have 3 children, they're usually right here, my little kids, up until the age of 5. Unfortunately, formaldehyde is heavier than air. It pools in your kitchen. It puddles around where you have a baby or a pet animal. The floor is the dirtiest spot of all. And it's not a small amount, it's a large amount of formaldehyde. So what they found, this is a graph from Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, they're essentially saying, in winter and in summer, with the windows open or with the windows closed, we're still seeing people above the threshold all the time for formaldehyde. This was a representation of what Bruce did. This is actually, Bruce and I worked together on this interview and trying to understand the impacts of dirty outdoor air. This is what's next to the highway of nitrogen dioxide. This is what's next to a power plant. The 23 dirtiest sites in the country are tested every year, and they have levels between 30 and 60 parts per billion of nitrogen dioxide. An electric stove element, it's cooking food, almost none. You're going to get a little bit from the food itself, essentially. But as soon as you make one gas dish, you're way up here. When you start making an actual meal, it's off the charts. Literally, I only graphed it up to 400, 500 parts per billion. It's 1,000 that you're going to find in the data from the Air Resources Board. This is not a joke. This is really dangerous amounts of nasty chemicals in your kitchen. It creates smog. I asked Brett Singer, Dr. Brett Singer, I said, hey, a New Yorker article in April 2019 about the hidden air pollution in our homes said kitchen air during cooking was so dirty that there's actual smog formation after 20 to 30 minutes of cooking on a gas stove. Was that an exaggeration? I'd read it twice, in the New Yorker and in the New York Times. And he says, if you add pollutants like NO2 from gas stoves to the cooking emissions, like the oil, it is a mixture of pollutants deserving of a name like smog, although that name is already taken by outdoor air pollution. I would argue it's not important if it's taken. You have to understand that it's smog. It's the same thick soup that you're seeing out on the skylines. It's what's in your kitchen after you've cooked the meal, and it's very bad for you. This is one of the projects I'm really proud of. It's not one of my biggest. It's only 14 units of housing. I get to work on projects like 60 to 500 units, but I'm very proud of it because we actually got homeless veterans housed. So in Santa Rosa, there's 400 homeless veterans every night. They succeeded in building 14 units. On the one hand, I want to give it like the slowest clap ever for that underwhelming success. And on the other hand, I mean, it's Herculean efforts. Small side story. I sat through the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors meeting. We were scheduled with a crowd this big of homeless veterans in the audience to talk about the need for them to finance 14 tiny homes. They decided that we were not important enough. So they spent 2 hours talking about their dream vision of their new city council building they're going to build in downtown Santa Rosa for $100 million. They had consultants there. They talked about it. Oh, it's really not comfortable in here at all. You know, the air conditioning's not as good as it used to be. We're all inside of a building. Everyone gets to go home except for the people in the audience. They made us wait not from 9 a.m. when we were scheduled, but to 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And that's when they begrudgingly gave us money to build 14 tiny homes. And I say begrudgingly because we didn't get a universal vote, and a lot of people complained about it being too expensive. Right after they talked about their city hall meeting, it made us all wait without food through the lunch hour. Yes?
What did those cost to build?
They cost $130,000 a house to build. The important point is that getting rid of the gas was a $30,000 savings. We were able to get greater energy efficiency out of the electric devices anyway, so it helped us out with code compliance. But the most important thing is that we're able to build it. See, once again, Sonoma County wasn't willing to give us a permanent piece of land that they had that was totally abandoned. No, they told us you can only stay on that place for 2 years. 2 years, you're going to build homes, but we need you to pick them up and move them in a couple of years because, you know, those people. So those veterans who served our country were not allowed to have these homes there for more than 2 years. Putting in gas infrastructure would be insane then. Just crazy. Almost impossible. So that was the solution, build it all electric. And I'll also gripe about the fact that the state of California has functionally banned all electric housing in the 2016 code. It's not an option. You have to choose your own adventure to get there. So they had already gone through 2 energy consultants who refused to do it. Like, no, gas is the only way. Like, well, we can't. Like, too bad. They wouldn't work on an all-electric project, and so they called me up because I would lower myself to making an all-electric development. So this is what I try to show developers of low-income housing. I'm like, hey, if you're going to put in gas, the plumbing in your walls is going to cost $200 at the least to $1,000 a fixture just to get the gas in the walls. The lateral to one of the houses, right now, PG&E charges $16,000 to put in a gas lateral to a home. Like they'll charge that in Richmond, for instance, homes that are being torn down and they have to put a new gas line in. 16 grand. 16 grand all over the state. So right there, just getting gas infrastructure to the house is going to be close to $20,000. 18 grand, in that range, you bet. The appliances themselves, a furnace and air conditioner cost more by a couple $1,000s than just a heat pump, which is a reversible air conditioner. You take an $1,800 air conditioner and you add $200 worth of stuff to it, and now it's a heater. Or you can take an $1,800 air conditioner and spend another $1,500 on a furnace. And then you have two things. And they probably have to go in two different places in your house. You have to build stuff for it and wire to it and plumb it. And it's like, or you can just use one thing in reverse. And it costs $200 more. So helping people go through and say, water heater, same price. Dryer's cheaper when it's electric. The stove is cheaper than when it's electric. If you're a developer and you're subdividing homes and building a street, woo boy, you're going to have in the range of like $200 a linear foot to put in gas in the street. And that's your price, and all of you bought a house with that cost included. It's not a freebie. You pay for it with the house, the cost of the house. So it might cost you $25,000 to $50,000 of gas in the street for some of these lots. Not a small amount of lots. So this essential wisdom you see in Waikiki Beach. I love it. That's one of the best all-electric communities that we have in the United States. They didn't have natural gas in Hawaii. It wasn't an option. They have to actually bring it in by boat and then reprocess it and turn it into kind of a natural gas, and then they distribute it through pipes. Crazy expensive, barely available. So almost all the luxury hotels of Waikiki Beach, the White Sands Beach, are all electric. Obviously, we all live a nice lifestyle if we're willing to fly all the way to Hawaii and stay in a hotel so we can swim. And people continue to do it year after year. So I'm just positive that an all-electric lifestyle is awesome. Otherwise, now, that's because it was cheaper. They didn't have a financially cost-effective way to put gas in. As you saw earlier, it's really a national thing going on. In yellow here is where the market share is gaining on all-electric construction. It is not partisan. It is just money. And everyone's got money in their pocket regardless of how they voted the last time they went in. So what you see here is developers who build about 90% of the housing in our country is built as a business, where you're going to build it and you're going to sell it. And you're responsible as the builder for all the construction costs up until the moment it's sold. So if you're in that world, you say, if I can avoid gas infrastructure, I will. And that is what's going on everywhere. As in the South, it's the most. We're getting up towards, this is 2015 data, we're up towards 60% of new houses now are all electric. The Midwest is one of the worst places, but just generally in the United States, we've had a nonstop growth of all electric housing since 1993. We took off with a bang in 1953. Remember this guy named Reagan? Ronald Reagan? Familiar with him? Yeah. He's the godfather of the all-electric movement. It's a difficult thing to say those words out loud, but they're true. So, I mean, my mom was a serious anti-Reagan advocate. I was not born on January 9th, Nixon's birthday, because she wouldn't push. So, you sent my first husband to the war. You're coming out at 12:02 a.m. on the 10th. That was like how I was born. So yeah, like I have feelings about Reagan that come with my family, right? So Reagan, though, was hired as like a failed Hollywood actor, basically, to start peddling the all-electric movement for General Electric and Westinghouse in 1953. And he spent 10 years on the television with a top 10 television show, the General Electric Theater, in which you got like Marilyn Monroe to show up and dance around on stage and sell electric stuff. And so he'd go to all the nuclear power plants in the country, like doing a stump speech for General Electric and Westinghouse about how cool it's all going to be, we're going to have cheap electricity. He was a real believer. And the only reason he got fired, and the reason why he then got to become governor of California, is because he thought the Tennessee Valley Authority was too socialist. And he started pissing on him, saying, socialist, socialist. And we're like, get out the door, man. So that's a wish that kept him along, because, you know, Governor Reagan. So anyway, He spent 10 years helping us understand that all-electric could be a better lifestyle. He had an all-electric mansion. It was on TV all the time. He'd walk them through. Nancy Reagan would show off their little kids. Ta-da-ta-da. Interestingly, when you see the videos of them, they use a lot of race-baiting language, even then. They talk about how their electric appliances are their servants. Really into the servants, and these servants that they have. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking there. So the point is that when he came into the governorship, he's still an all-electric advocate until the energy crisis of 1973. That's when things went to hell, because we had 4 times as expensive electricity then. And really, a lot of the Reagan story that we don't like, the 1980 story of fossil fuel production and nuclear power, that is really out of his sort of searing experience of being governor in a state that all of a sudden had gas lines down the street and electricity prices that people couldn't afford. And he's like, gosh darn it, if I'm president, I'm going to get an oil vice president, and he's going to be in charge of oil, and I'm going to be in charge of nuclear power, and the two of us are going to solve this problem. Put yourself in his head if you can. So Reagan, let's see here, he started the all-electric movement. It stopped in '73, and it started again in 1993. We took a 20-year hiatus from nonstop growth of all-electric housing. It's better, safer, more luxurious, and now we're back on track. We just need to go faster. This is what fast looks like. Hey, all in the Bay Area, people are building all-electric apartment complexes now. They're all over the place. And like I said, the California code is essentially banned it. In the code we're in right now, there's no all-electric pathway. They did it on purpose. Infuriates me to this exact moment. But nonetheless, all of these developers have found a way around it, saying, hey, it's cheaper. You just have to let us build things that are cheaper. We're going to do more energy efficiency somewhere else. Oops. Efficiency. This is a furnace that's the federal minimum, 81% efficient. 97% is literally the best that physics can support. You can't get better than 97.5% efficiency. The federal minimum for a heat pump is 240% efficient. Mine is 420% efficient. If you go to Japan, the center of heat pump development in the world, they, by the way, in 1980 did not elect a President Reagan. They instead started investing in all electric. They just had the 1979 oil crisis. It was the Iran hostage affair. It wasn't actually an embargo, but it got people pretty scared about oil prices at the time. Their solution was to invest in heat pumps. Our solution was to start developing gas all over the country. They have the best heat pumps in the world at 700+% efficient. 1 unit of electricity in gets you the equivalent of 7 units of heat back out. So we have solutions in the world that we only need to just get over here, basically, import it. There's some issues with like UL listing, and we have a 60 hertz electrical system, they have a 50 hertz electrical system. So anytime we try to get their stuff that's so cool, there's like a 1.5 years of product reconfiguring. But I think it's time for us to like move. Let's get this stuff over here. Oops. This is what it's like in Japan. So my brother's over there. He's an internationally renowned artist. And so he's doing some installation over in Japan of like a, what is it? It's a manta ray that they fill with water and it like flies. So anyway, he's getting paid to be in Japan doing art. And I was like, hey, can you go to a big box and just take some pictures? I want to know what Japan looks like. And he's, I didn't know this is going to look like this. I had no idea. They're all over the place. Like you walk in and there's just heat pumps everywhere. There's tons of them. And these numbers, if you translate them, this is $490. You have to like take 2 zeros off, basically, and that's the American dollars conversion. So $500, $650 to buy an entire heat pump. They're 3 times that amount right now in the United States. We pay $1,800 or $1,500, and they're paying $300 and $500, and they're installing them for like a few $100s. We install ours for $3,000. I know, it's kind of, so there's some standardization, there's some work that needs to be done in the United States to make it cheap and easy. It could be. So the 2019 code, after lots of complaints, has been flipped around, and now it essentially supports all electric in a way that even makes it easier and cheaper to go all electric. Thank you, about time. So we have the world's most energy efficient code. Right now we're performing with the new house at about 65. The scale of 100 is what I was allowed to build in 2005 when I got a job. 2005 energy code, was one standard in California. We're at 65 now. And efficiency, we have to get down to 4148. Add PV to get ourselves down to 1527. This is reserved for gas because you can't offset gas. The building code won't allow you to put in solar panels to go past that essentially. I hate it. I'm really frustrated that we still assume that gas is going to be in a building, and it makes it so that our building code doesn't require solar that's cost effective, that is a financial benefit for everyone. But because of the gas, we can't do it. Electric efficiency, I just showed you that graph of how amazingly efficient electric is versus gas. So the least cost path now is an all-electric building to get through the building code. And that's how it should be. That's reality. And now they've codified it, literally, so that we can build that way. No drama. 100% of all the homes. So I just wanted you to see, yeah, this is what it looks like. Houses with solar panels. You live in Palo Alto. It's not like you've never seen that before. You might not have seen this, though. Sol Alpha Lux. I have a dirty joke I'm not going to say about that. So it's a nanogrid condo complex, meaning that what they have down here, they got the Tesla power walls, and each one of these goes up to one of the 4 floors. They got a canopy of solar up there, and they're using the cars to charge the homes. Vehicle to building charging. So you might have heard about the super typhoon that just happened in Japan. We're all whining about the fact that there were a few 100,000 people who lost electricity for a day or two, including my house, by the way. It was kind of a big deal to come down here when there's no power at home. 3 little kids. We were cooking on the wood stove. So this would be a solution for everyone. That super typhoon that came through knocked down 2 gigantic transformer towers in Japan. 1 million customers without power, all across Tokyo, all the way across the island. And Nissan already did this rodeo. In 2011, when the tsunami hit, they took their electric cars and made them into home chargers. They deployed it right off. They're like, okay, obviously we need to do something about the fact that 1/3 of the power plants have been turned off in the country. We're going to make our electric cars charge the home. We'll just give you a little battery backup. So now in 2019, when the same story happened, power's off, Nissan's got them all over the place, and now people are charging their homes in Japan. Like, this is the news, and people are leaving with their car, driving outside of the power outage zone, powering up and bringing home their new power to charge their house for days more. And that, I'm building a house, or I'm not, I'm helping with energy consulting of a house up in Napa on some mountaintop, and they're off-grid. You should do this. You should drive down into Napa, charge your car up, and bring it back up. Let's not put in a diesel generator. Let's not have huge tanks of gas with the generators. That's the off-grid idea. You gas battery it. Instead, let's do the vehicle to building. Because a 60 kilowatt hour battery, like in a Nissan Leaf, you might use 10 to 15 kilowatt hours a day. So you're going to get by in a few days there. The Tesla has twice as much in it, potentially. So 6 days, a week, even without solar power. Even without driving away and then coming back with a full battery. I don't want to belabor this, but basically, these are the heat pump water heaters you're seeing here. And these are the ones that are sort of conventionally out there on the market. These are 67 to 90% efficient. These are 370% efficient. These cost the same as these do. So to be able to say, like, oh, it's definitely going to be easier to get a building permit if you go all electric is illustrated by this. Radically different efficient. This is 6 times as efficient as your standard water heater, or 1/6 as much energy it's using. It's collecting it from the air. And on a national basis, that means these are just the standard energy tags that you get for devices. This is a heat pump water heater. Its price is metric on gas bills, and so it's literally off the charts. This is $161, and the lowest bill is $225 in the country for a gas tank. So this example I found, like, okay, that's almost exactly the water demand. You know, I try to make sure I had an apples to apples comparison. So the best one I could find that was gas was $231 versus $161. That's true in about 2/3 of the states of the United States. You're going to see a dramatic difference, and all electric is cheaper. California, we're right at the edge. We kind of have a worst case scenario. We have a dual fuel utility. Dual fuel utilities have a trick, the whole countrywide. Their trick is they raise electricity prices, and then they take that money and they invest it in gas. They make the most money off of putting in gas infrastructure. They really can, keep in mind, utilities do not make money off of selling energy. They make money off of selling infrastructure. 80% of their revenue every single year is from putting in new pipelines and new electrical lines. They don't care about selling new things except new things. So, in that scenario of it's less, the money part of the electricity price is very small. Like electricity is not about the sale of electricity, it's about paying your infrastructure. You pay for infrastructure in that bill. So there's a couple things going on. If you stop installing gas lines, the gas utilities die right away. It's called the utility death spiral. They make their money off of new construction. If you don't ask for new construction, they don't make 80% of their revenue that year, and they're dead. The utility death spiral gets written about all the time. I'm hoping that happens as fast as humanly possible. Now, not so funny is to just mention, like, my mother-in-law died in the Santa Rosa fires, that climate change-induced wildfire. I don't look at us as having time, 10 years into the future, to figure this out. I was born in '76. In '78, Al Gore was having Senate hearings about climate change. When I was in middle school, it was my textbook. And I'm kind of stunned that I'm 43 years old and I'm the leader on this kind of thing. What have we been doing? And we don't have time. Like, some of us literally are done. That time's gone. You know, Nan's 2 years dead in the ground. Actually, she donated her body to medicine, so she's somewhere in the Bay Area in pieces at a medical college. Good heart on her. Minisplits. If you want to do this in your house, the cheapest way you can do it is to put in a single head on the wall. These are called heads. They're also called fan coils. They're called a few different things. It's a box on the wall that distributes heating and cooling. There's refrigerant that comes into it that's either hot or cold, and there's a fan that blows over it to distribute the heating and cooling. So I heat my entire house with one on the wall in the living room. It's outside is my cheap solution, 1,300 square foot house, 5 people in the house, 3 bedrooms. We have here this is what many of you might have, an existing ducted system, either above in your attic or below your house. Those cost more. So the reason they cost more is they have to have a bigger fan, because ducts take a lot of fan energy. All the friction takes energy away from delivering it, so you have to push it harder. And if you have to push it harder, then you need more heat as a source, because you're losing heat through the pipes. And just everything has to get bigger in order to deal with that system of heat delivery. So it costs more. $6 grand plus $4,000 to $20,000 in ductwork. And it really depends upon your house. How big is it? How small? How complicated? You want to spend some more money. I'm in Palo Alto, so I know you guys are good at spending money. You can get a radiant floor. Now, just to put it really clearly, radiant heating does not significantly decrease your utility bills. It is a very small efficiency gain. It might be more comfortable. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, for money, which is my job, I do affordable housing, it's not a cheap system and it doesn't save energy. Now, if you like them, I want you to know that they cost about $9,000 plus $15,000 to $30,000 in floor plumbing. It's the most expensive system you can possibly put in as a radiant system. Go for it. If you got the money and you want it, you know, brave new world, go for it. But that system that you're looking at here, the Chiltrix, here on the left, this is the Phoenix, this is another one. And Space Pack is here, that's awesome. Space Pack, go chat with them about their radiant floor. Here we have what's over in Italy, and this is what we need, a retrofit-ready product. One that literally plugs into a 120 volt outlet, so it uses about the same amount of energy as a hairdryer on medium. So this device, which is all over Europe, because they've been doing this electrification retrofits for quite a while, and they've got these cool, fancy-looking ones. There's a little tiny heat pump up there. It's like 20 gallon or 30 gallons. Europeans, I guess they shower less or something. So that's really true. But what's nice about this is next year. It says coming in 2019. I just met with HDP earlier today. They're like, no, it's going to be next year. So the utilities are trying to get people to electrify rapidly. They're deploying rebates. We've met with all the heat pump water manufacturers and like, we need smaller things. You can't bring in a 50-gallon tank when there's a 40-gallon tank there. So either bringing them in as imports or having Rheem right now is developing, and they've sent them home with their staff to try them out. We're almost there for you guys to be able to take out your water heater, put a new one there, and just plug it into any outlet in your wall and be done. That's the cheap and easy, and that's what all the utilities are funding right now to make sure that happens. Now, I realize I've been teasing people about being wealthy. I actually like hanging out with wealthy people. Who doesn't? They have the best toys. So this swimming pool here is where I take my kids to swim. It's got pineapples and bananas, and there's a rope swing into it. It's killer. Thank you, CJ, the best birder of our community. He had this $30,000 solar thermal system to heat this thing 2/3 of the year. It doesn't work, obviously, in the wintertime. Solar thermal does not produce heat. There's 1/5 as much sunshine in the winter as there is in the summertime. You don't use solar thermal to heat a house. You don't use it to heat water or a swimming pool in the winter. Just so you know, that's not how they work. Now, for $3,000, he took out his $30,000 system and stuck the Hayward in, or maybe it's the Aquapal, I can't remember, they look the same. And that gives us 90-degree pool water in the middle of winter, running on his PV panels. It's awesome. It's cheap. Essentially, these things are like a solar thermal collector crushed into a little ball. They take all of the copper piping in here, and they wind it real tight. And they take the propylene glycol refrigerant that doesn't boil, and they put a boilable refrigerant in there, because when things boil, there's a ton of energy to make it go from liquid to gas, called vapor, called phase change. So these things are solar thermal collectors. They run on electricity, they pull air through them, they strip the heat off the air in the same way that a solar panel does, just way more efficiently and cheaply. These are solar thermal collectors. Heat pumps are solar thermal collectors. So that's the cheap, easy, works all year round. Modern electric fireplaces, I'm just gonna make sure, how long do I have to go? Because I only have a couple minutes. Okay. Almost there. Fireplaces. These are LED lit mist. This is an example of one you can have on your coffee table. There's a party favor. You stick your hand in the fire. It doesn't burn though. It's amazing. They are fire, but they're not. You know, it's like woo, woo, woo. So these things, this one specifically doesn't make heat. It's just a toy for a party. All these other ones make heat. And even outside, who here has gotten a headache from the propane carbon monoxide fumes from a party when you're next to the heaters? Like you're all like, oh, it's cold tonight. And whoa, that's an intense amount of brain poison I'm inhaling right there. So these electric ones, plugged into the wall, will not give you a propane headache. Your wine tastes better. So retrofit-ready cooking replacements. This is what I have in my own home. I have a 2-burner Eurodib. It uses the same energy as a toaster, so I don't have to rewire my kitchen. I have another one on the other part of the kitchen for my wife, because I get in conflicts with her whenever she wants to use my stove. So we have 2 different cooking stations, and she like hand milks the cow outside and brings it in, and then pasteurizes the milk and makes her yogurt and fills the countertop with bottles. And over here, I'm doing my organic, stuff. So we have our different cooking stations, both of which were so easy to retrofit and has saved one chunk of our marriage, like the kitchen part of our marriage. So, and then this is our oven. Also just plugs into the wall. No rewiring needed. Fits a chicken. I bake all the time. Things are happy and good. But if you want to spend some more money, the less expensive solution is a radiant flat top. So we talk about radiant floors. Radiant electric coils underneath a glass surface. So it's very cleanable, but it's cheap and slow. Electric radiant heating. Just, it heats up, then it sends essentially light to the pan, and the pan warms up, and then the food warms up. Slow. If you spend 2 to 3 times as much money, you get instant. A magnet interacting with a metal pan makes the metal pan the radiant heater. So you're not like putting electricity through a coil to do da-da-da-da. It's just the magnet heats the pan. The pan itself gets hot immediately, so it's speed of light. You push a button, whoop, pan's hot. Like it's right there. Fun, easy. It's called Induction. If you're not familiar with it, I think there's a cooking demo going on. Maybe now? Or no, it's in here next. Right. So stick around. This is another photo from Aaron's shopping trip for me. I love this because I didn't know what I was really looking at. That's one of the things that's cool about traveling, right? You get to see how other societies just think differently, have different traditions and different meals and things. So these people, these are full-on kitchens, but they only have 2 or 3 burners. Their oven is this thing, that box, that drawer. It's like it's built in, it drops into your countertop, you pull out a drawer below it, that's where you're doing your baking. I don't know what they bake.
We grill fish.
Oh, you grill fish.
It's just for grilling fish.
Oh. Thank you.
Nothing else, ever.
Really? It's a fish griller. All right.
You have to.
You have to like move the air? Or
No, you have to.
Move along. Well, that is it. This is the questions part of it. So yeah, I had that question. What is that thing? It's a fish griller. So I'm going to leave here and just go stand still in another room waiting for all the questions. I'm going to have my guides available, and my goal is to answer your personal questions about your house. It's just your own freebie consulting time for the next hour. I'm just there to do it. I encourage you guys to kind of huddle around so you can hear other people's questions, because you'll probably have similar questions. We're going to try to have a stack of guides so you can just go home with like, this thing is what I'm talking about. Go shop online for that thing. So that's the next step. But while we're all here, and I've got 3 minutes, can I have 2 questions? Anyone have any thoughts about what they need? Yes, ma'am.
What about the Masana ceiling heater things?
Those are fine. If you can either put, the question is, what about ceiling heaters? So ceiling heaters, there's 2 versions of them. There's like a liquid up there, and that liquid has been heated by a heat pump, hopefully. So you got a hot liquid coming through, and it's heating up a panel and getting radiant heat. And you can also do cold with that. There's one of the cool, fancy commercial buildings down here is cold panels that are also hot and cold. So just like it's a panel that hangs from the ceiling and heats and cools and chills. Or you can do electric resistance. Like you see in bathrooms sometimes, to like make sure the bathroom gets warm right now, you have like just a heat lamp or an electric resistance element in that panel. Does that answer your question though?
Well, my question was, you were comparing costs of
Yes.
different systems.
Oh, what's the cost of that?
Yeah, comparative.
It's pretty high end. So like radiators are somewhere between $400 and $600 for a radiator stick over in the corner, and it's in that like $600 to $1,000 range for the device up there.
Spiegel Eltron has a $100 one-element box that is so intensely hot.
But very inefficient. So like electric resistance can get the job done. And I was just chatting with some folks, and they're like, is it okay if we do electric resistance? I'm like, it's fine. They're putting solar panels up on the roof. Electric resistance is super cheap. It takes no infrastructure. The plugs are already there. You just stick it in, and electric resistance, off you go. It's just not efficient. So you got to make some choices there. Yes, sir.
I've got a gas furnace, right? Forced air, ducts and everything.
Yep.
Can I just use those ducts with
Yep.
an induction system? I don't have to buy a bunch of new ductwork?
You don't. No, you should seal it, because frequently ducts lose half of their heat through cracks, so like 50. So you can heat half as much as if you just have your ducts be functioning ducts. But yes, you should probably get a Mitsubishi. It's a compressor that sits outside the brand, and they've got a really nice fan coil that just drops right into where the ductwork is. And have someone test the ducts so you can figure out where the leaks are, but don't replace them because it's stupid amounts of money. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can a significant heat pump take care of space heating as well as water heating? And
Yes. So an example of that is the product we're seeing here today. It's not the Chiltrex, it's the Space Pack. Space Pack is here. Space Pack has, you see 2 compressors, 2 fan openings, and one does heating and one does cooling, and that is an example of a product that is designed to do domestic hot water and space heating and space cooling. Those are not efficient per se, or I shouldn't say, they're not extra efficient. There's nothing going on there that's saving energy, so you know. And they're not cheaper, because the coordination of all those different things is actually more expensive than just getting a purpose-built device for space heating and cooling and a purpose-built device for water heating. They're space efficient. And that one does work with radiant floors. So it's a rare product that does air and water for home heating. There's like 3 different brands, Chiltrex and Space Pack and one other. So just, you can do that, and there's pluses and minuses.
So I hate to interject, but this can be continued next door. So he'll be doing his one-on-one consultations, which is an amazing opportunity. So just move over next door if you want to continue. At 5 p.m., Todd Bell from Frontier Energy will be talking about induction cooktops and doing a demo and answering all your questions about induction. And then at 6 p.m., we will have Sean back in this room moderating a panel discussion with 2 residents and 2 professionals who are in the realm of building all-electric homes. And we would love for you to stay for that. Stretch your legs, get some more snacks, which are awesome, by the way. And thank you, Sean. Thank you so much.